Hello there. Welcome back to Charles Circle, and welcome back to Captain of Industry. Last time, we transitioned most of our economy to contracts to reduce our reliance on mining, both on the island and on the world map. In doing so, we also added a pretty decent chunk of steel capacity, which was sorely needed. We also scaled up microchip production, which allowed us to add enough servers to provide the internet to our people. Today, we're going to upgrade our research labs for the final time. This will allow us to research all of the final techs in the game. That should set the table for our final big project in the playthrough, the space station. There are certainly some odds and ends that we'll put together along the way, and the space station itself looks to have a few different stages, so it'll probably take us a minute, but it's our last big milestone. It's also one of the two highlights along with trains with this update, so it seems fitting that it's our last big milestone to chase. In order to upgrade, we'll of course need the technology itself. So let's get that in motion real quick, and we can talk about what else we'll need to do to get everything sorted. Now, running a Research Lab 4 takes 48 Lab Equipment 4. Right now, we're running Research Lab 3s, which take 24 Lab Equipment 3. That's a huge jump, right? We need to double the production rate from 24 to 48 and add Electronics 3 along the way. So we need to produce 192 of the Lab Equipment 4. That, by the way, is 12 of these assembly 4s, robotic assemblies, and 24 Electronics 3 just for the last step, right? 12 assemblies and a ton of Electronics 3 just for the last step. And in order to make enough Lab Equipment 3 as an input, we'll need to double all of this as well. That means even if we boost, using Unity, our entire production here, we'll quickly unlock as well, by the way, right on the other side here, the next level of assemblies, which will double our production rates, so the boost wouldn't be forever. But we could boost this entire setup. We would still need to add 6 more of these, also boosted, to make all of the Lab Equipment 4 that we need. In addition to that, like I said, 24 Electronics 3. We currently make 12, and sure, we're full. We currently make 12, and we have the microchips really only to make that 12. This represents essentially one pass through all of these machines. We can make 12 per minute. And we need about a quarter of that, roughly speaking, to sustain the maintenance 3 requirement that we already have. And by the way, those additional Research Lab 4s, the upgrade, will then require maintenance 3. So it's quite the ask from an Electronics 3 perspective as well. Beyond that, we'll have to hope to God that we can keep up with all of the other inputs. I think we're going to be fine on Electronics 2. There's a ton out there. We certainly have glass capacity, and I think we're okay on Electronics 1. This setup still generally tends to keep up. It is definitely going to eat up a pretty good chunk of the steel capacity we just added, though. The other thing is that we'll generate 4 times 48, 192, again, recyclables. And recyclables are only processable in a single waste sorting plant up to 144. So between that and the continued growth of our settlement, we probably want to add a second recycling plant in this area as well. Okay. All that to say, it's a big jump, and we're not going to be able to make it all today. We can put a lot of it in place, but we'll have to reinforce the microchip production, all of that. The good news, right, similarly to the robotic assembly, there is a microchip upgrade right on the other side here that will also improve our throughput. So we'll get there. It's just going to take a few technologies on the other side of this tech itself for us to get all the way up to speed. That's okay. It's really not a big deal. We'll add buffers so that during downtime, when we don't have anything actively being researched, we're still making the supplies that will allow us to research faster once we do put that back in motion, so on and so forth. The other thing is, these techs are expensive, of course, right? 2 to 3 times what these most recent techs that we've upgraded or unlocked cost. There's just not that many left, honestly, right? These and these are all pretty much just repeatable bonuses that if you still have a lab and you can still maintain the inputs, you can just get upgrades to your vehicle limit, to your fuel efficiency, to all these little things. And that's great, but they're nice to have, not need to have. So there's really only a handful of truly core technologies left. So it's not the end of the world if we don't maintain a full 4 research labs, going forward. So that's okay. No problem there. So what else should we do then if we're thinking about using this space and we're going to have to add another 6 of these? We actually do have some space here, right? It doesn't look like it because we've left these ramps, but this used to be a road through. It's no longer that since our settlement has expanded. Of course, we need to preserve some passageway through here. We don't even have to really, technically, but it would be helpful if we could. That still allows us to delete these 2. In fact, why not? And that gives us room for 2 more full rows here. So I think we'll be able to keep our same situation here. The only question will be what we want to do with the recycling. And we could do 2 things there. One, we could simply have an overflow here and take the excess out to a different plant. This one has a little bit more capacity still, as you can see. And in fact, that's kind of what happens when this backs up already. But we could do it more explicitly with a balancer. We could also add a second one of these in this area itself. We're probably going to be pushing up against the full base capacity of 2 recycling plants anyway. So it might be worth seeing if we can't find a slot in this area, maybe even by rearranging these slightly, pushing them a little bit closer to the edge of the road, but that could be valuable as well. We'll get into that once we're ready to sort of revamp this area. And of course, the settlement recyclables don't have to be here. They could be really anywhere. So we'll play around with it. All right, so that's the general plan for this area and this episode. The other things that we should probably think about doing, our power supply is pretty rough. Now we're able to meet it, right? But it requires us running all of this coal power pretty continuously. We're actually not even really supplying half of what we need with our fully upgraded, fully running at top speed nuclear reactor 2. And in fact, we could add a whole nother one of these running at top speed, and it would probably barely cover us, but we could justify doing that. And I think we probably should, because these machines are full, and they can all, especially if I add the updated recipe here, they can all essentially work together to make another one of these keep up, right? 4 of these to 1 of these. And we have 8. That was to help us build a buffer, but we've done that. So it's actually pretty straightforward. We would just add another one of these, make sure he's attached to the same belts and that we have the same, processing capacity, but there's plenty of space in here. And we would need to add more turbines and think about how we would want to absorb all of the depleted steam that would come out of it. We could simply make another set here. Technically, we could just use these large cooling towers. These are a backup of equal capacity, so we could fit everything through here. It just leaves us no room to breathe if something goes wrong. Or we could just add a little bit more capacity somewhere else. Half the reason we did this instead of just this was it ends up being water positive, and we are pushing water out to the base. And you can see that there's still room to push a little bit more out. So we might do that. Any either way, though, I think there's a pretty clear argument to get up to the 240 that a second nuclear reactor 2 would give us. So I think I'm going to dive in and add one of these real quick while we're waiting for the research to go. I'll be right back. All right, welcome back. Starting with the updated water in and out. Let's build all this. We've added 2 more seawater pumps. We barely needed this third one before. It was more like, it was less than 2.5, so 5 should work. We even got an excuse to use one of the tall ones. I never used this, but the landscape dictated it. This should be enough brine dump. Let's see. Out here, though, we are primarily taking the recycled fuel, and in fact, we're going to straight up remove this. So all of our MOX fuel coming out of here, right, is actually going to get cycled into just the closer of the 2, right? Nothing wrong with that. We should actually, though, now that I think about it, probably at least supplement with a bit of the basic fuel. So let's do that, but that's what this is for. So build all this real quick. And when that fuel comes around here, it will be sent across, over, down into the reactor itself. When the reactor spits out waste, it will come back along here and enter our waste line just before the same sorter that our previous reactor's waste goes through. Similarly, we're going to pull water out here. We will continue to prioritize, of course, over the return back to the rest of the base. This water will come in and feed both the reactor's core itself and have a bit of backup, right, for the emergency cooling. Similarly, that will output itself to this super emergency smokestack for if and only if the emergency cooling kicks in. But the actual steam itself will come out here, merge right back up with this whole line, which has been extended out here. So this is now a full length turbine. At the original truncated length, right, we were looking at 36 of the 72 maximum throughput. We've been at 50%, so we just doubled. I still don't really think we need these flywheels, but they're there because otherwise it'll look weird to me, and the spacing works. We've just extended all of the pipes. The same is true out here to absorb the extra steam and kick back the extra water. So I think we'll start by building all of the infrastructure. And now that that's all up, incredible timing, we'll also build this. But I do believe we'll want to make sure that this is up and running smoothly before we dive into any other research. So we'll leave this be for now. I mean, I think this is working up to speed pretty much. A little bit of steam still sorting itself out here and there, but we are, I think, in pretty good shape. So happy to see that for sure. And yeah, let's start looking at research labs. So as we said, we're going to need to build research lab 4 requires lab equipment 4, right? And we said we will need 6 of these for 4 of these. If everything's boosted, it'll be 100% of demand. If everything's not boosted, it'll be 50% of demand. Either way. First Electronics 3 are on their way over. I think we have everything else that we'll need to start churning these out. We've moved these up a little bit because I do want to increase our recycling here. So I'm trying to think the best way to do that. I think we have to move this over as well. probably, we might be able to keep these as is. Let's find out. Okay, there we go. I think, please, we did manage to get another set of recycling, or rather another recycling plant back here. I think, yeah, we even managed to get, for small trucks at least, still some navigability back here. So we will take that, no question, no question. So let's get one of these up right away, and then, hey, here's this. So what do we need here? What are we missing? We haven't connected something, obviously, and yes, there it is. But this should finally trigger the production of some lab equipment 4. Very good, very good. And here it comes, rolling in the purple stuff. Love to see it. So this will start working its way down here, and in fact, we should probably pause this, send it back, because we need to upgrade all of these. Ooh, look at all that recycling. It's very good. It's saving us on ore, right? That is very much the point. All right, well, this is going to take a minute to spin up here. Oh, I suppose we want to do this, but rather not allow any out is what I meant. No big deal. All right, let's let that accumulate so that these can get built. And then we'll start researching stuff. I think probably starting with the next assembly. Let's do that. Our demand continues to grow here, so I suppose we probably ought to keep adding server racks as well. Which will also mean these goes up. And let's make sure that we are, in fact, accumulating some servers. These next level assemblies also double the compute requirement as well, so we'll certainly need more of that. These are cool. They have an observatory in them. That's fun. I like that. We're making it quick. That's the good news about having a bunch of these set up. So this should do it. Then I think we're going to have, just temporarily, a little bit of equipment 3 here, because we have some left over, and it'd be good to just sort of fill it in here. So that won't last for long, but we might as well, right? Good, and then the recycling's definitely keeping up, although these are obviously not putting out much quite yet. I think we can allow that to go now. Here we are. Flowing on in. Very nice. Let's get some more of our brick surface over here. Alright, well, we've used up sort of our initial pile here, and without all of this, literally all of this being boosted, we can only do 2 labs right now, right? So I think just to save on the Unity and to make it less sketchy intermittent, we'll just pause these 2, let them get through to this, and then we'll upgrade all of these. But we'll be there soon. Alright, I made a little bit of extra capacity over here for Electronics 3. These 2, even fully boosted, not quite doing it, so I'm going to let them run down this supply, and then I'll clear them out. We'll have added more over there. In the meanwhile, we continue to make slow but steady progress, so keep on keeping on. And there we go. Let's let it keep on rolling right into microchip production, but let's definitely start upgrading. So we'll take a peek here. Of course, it's going to take some construction parts to upgrade. It's also going to take more teraflops, more power, and maintenance 3. That's a big deal, right? Because that requires Electronics 3. But you know what I'm not seeing here? Is any people required whatsoever. This is fully autonomous. There is 0 human component to this. Nice. Well, that'll free us up to have our people do better stuff. That's what you want. Love to see it. Okay, let's do that here too. And here, and here, and here. Just go for 50% on this entire setup right away, right? See how painful that is for us. But hopefully, that's enough to get this third one unpaused. Let's let it back up first, but I think it should be. You know what else we can do while working on that is we, along the way, upgraded or researched the upgrade for medical supplies too. All we have to do is make some antibiotics and mix them with our supplies 1 before we route it into the clinic. So that's actually pretty easy to do. And here we probably will stay down on an assembly 4 because we don't quite need anything higher throughput here, right? This makes 48, this will make the same 48, and it's still enough here. But we'll have to make some antibiotics first, which is easy enough. We prepared for this. We'll make them in a fermentation tank. We will have to process some CO2, but we just need oxygen, ammonia, and sugar. Now sugar, we already decided to bring over from our food processing area, and there it is. So that's simple enough. We'll also need ammonia and oxygen. Ammonia, I think we can pretty comfortably bring over from the refinery, which is not far. And oxygen, I think we're going to use in my new favorite tool, the electrolyzer 2. This will just take some water, and it'll also give us some hydrogen. Been slowly but surely adding this places, and it's been helpful. We are starting to get our cargo ships over onto them, which reduces pollution but also frees up heavy oil to get cracked into something a little bit more productive too. So we'll certainly take that. And I think this is all the stuff we need. We'll need to connect this up out the back here, and then we're good to go. So do that real quick here. And the CO2 is an interesting question. Where's the nearest spot we sink CO2? It's actually kind of in a bit of a desert for that, isn't it? I don't really want to run a pipe all the way over here or even really over here. We can afford an extra machine, right? Who cares? I think that's probably the answer. Doesn't matter if our oxygen or if our internet is boxed in, right? It can still reach. Something like that, maybe? I think that should work. Let it all build real quick, see how it goes, adjust if we need to. Definitely a bit of a mess here, but I don't think I mind too much. If we need to, I'm happy to move some of this stuff down too. Sugar's full immediately. Ammonia is going to be the more interesting question. We are making a bunch of it here, but we're turning it all into fertilizer. That said, pretty full in fertilizer, and I have slowly but surely, over time, gotten every single one of these farms up to max fertility. So this is really actually about to be a problem. Not really a problem, but in the sense of this is going to back up and we'll have to find other uses for ammonia. So I actually think it's totally fine to drop that down and let this be exportable. That said, can trucks make it back here? Maybe small trucks? All right, good, yes. I know that was our intention a little while ago, but that was a while ago. Things evolve sometimes. In the meanwhile, how are things over here? Yeah. This is all looking good. Of course, the issue is we're having trouble keeping up on Electronics 3. To be expected, I suppose. It's really going to be a microchips limited situation until we get the next technology. So I think that's just fine. Well, that's all progressing, actually. There's something we unlocked a little while ago that's both somewhat useful and also just kind of neat. There's a statue of maintenance, and this will reduce your global requirements for maintenance by 4% if you provide it with fuel gas continuously. And if you have the early supporter pack, you can even make a gold one, which I think looks cooler. And since we have the gold finally, I'm I'm ready to build this. I think maybe more importantly, I'm ready to build this because I feel comfortable we have a ton of fuel gas, and in fact are about to start struggling to spend it. And this is a productive way that's also kind of neat in order to spend it. So I'm trying to decide the best place to put it. And I kind of feel like over here is neat by sort of our museum and captain's office area. So maybe something like this. I don't want to block the train view or the roadway, I suppose. Might actually be best here. And it's not really like we certainly will need access to the trading dock for loans and stuff, but it's not super high throughput. We're very done with the beacon. We have enough population that our growth rate will more than make up for any new pops we need to be bringing in. So I think the answer is here. And that seems appropriate. Staring down Broad Street there. We'll also need a pretty high priority fuel gas storage here. Can you still navigate easily? Good. For whatever it is worth, you can actually build multiple of these. They have diminishing returns. So it's -4% for the first one, and then less than that. I think the conventional wisdom is generally that no more than like 2, 3, 4 max, depending on exactly how your base is constructed, how large it is, all of those things, is sort of the break even. Now that said, they're neat. So if you want to build more than that, you should. But I think we're just going to do the one for now. We're not really hurting on maintenance, and I don't know, it doesn't take a ton of fuel gas, but I'd like to sort of see its impact before we commit to make it a bunch. But here we go. So that is coming along. Take a minute. It's quite the monument. Why are so many of these? I know what it is. I paved inside here, and they are struggling to reach it. No problem. I can help. Here we go. I picked the cobblestones because it feels like a cool walkway in between the different buildings here. We need to have some more variety, right, than just this constant block of cement. It's really nice to have a nice clear background. I find it visually very helpful, but we need a little bit more variety. We need more stuff like what we have going on over here to try to make clear our visual distinctions here. So trying to do a little bit more of that here and there. Do think that would be kind of fun to do on an aesthetics stream or something at some point. So stay tuned for that. Our truck network is looking a lot better as well. While we were waiting for the research to go, I was tweaking and playing around with our mining setups by converting to mega excavators and their corresponding mega trucks. We actually managed to free up a lot of our smaller trucks, which is good because we still need the normal size truck for all of the flat goods, and there are lots of them, right? But we cannot, there is no mega flatbed truck, right? You can haul around a ton of liquids, you can haul around a ton of loose goods, but steel, right, for example, has to be taken around in these trucks. That is as big as it gets, unfortunately. So when we, after this, grab the vehicle cap upgrade, I have a feeling we'll probably end up making a decent number of those, even though we are finally caught up here as well. What are we doing, by the way, with all of our excavators now that we're not mining as much? Well, we are doing some terraforming, which is nice, out this way for the most part. Do we even have? We don't. The other thing we're doing actually is trading in some of our lower tier excavators, again, since we just need fewer of them, Not to mention we've been upgrading to higher capacity ones. We're just turning them into trucks. No reason not to do that. So that's also probably part of why the vehicle cap, or rather the truck network, is performing a little bit better, which we are happy to see, sort of rebalancing our distribution to what we need for our network. This oil patch is already almost half gone too, and frankly our trucks aren't really trying all that hard to move it as fast as possible, as you can see. So nice to have that. Not the end of the world. Our sulfur has sure gotten consumed quickly though. That's the other part of, we're making a ton of rubber over here, right? Because we're going through so much electronics. And also the fertilizer requires a lot of sulfur. So again, this is the part of the game where it really starts to become a bit of a precious resource, and why I've been so unwilling to just dispose of it. This is where we want that, and unfortunately we're pretty close to hurting for it, so we'll see. The other part here, I think, no, I mean, we've got our whole refinery working on double time, so we're making as much sour water as we possibly can. It's just a matter of we're consuming a lot, so be it. How's this going? Did we get, we did not yet. We do allow export here, right? Do. Okay, that's good. And we're also, by the way, making some ammonia. A long time ago, we realized we were venting nitrogen over here just because that's how we make oxygen for these other steps that require it. And we thought, hey, you know, it's technically possible to mix nitrogen with hydrogen, a thing that we're making over here a little bit, and turn it into additional ammonia, and we could use it. So here's that. That said, it does kind of feel like we're hurting for hydrogen a little bit. It's the problem with moving an entire cargo ship over to it. It's a real big jump in consumption. But we will continue, as we have all this power now, we'll continue adding those electrolyzers wherever we need oxygen, and in fact could, you know, very easily consider swapping them out over here. We're also about 2 or 3 technologies in priority away from being able to make a ton of hydrogen and oxygen from water with an even more efficient recipe using super steam, which we will talk about when we get to it, but is, along with the fast breeder reactor, I would say our last big power spike in what our base will be fundamentally capable of doing. So here's an idea. All that recycled gold happens in this area, and then it has to come all the way back out here, and then come all the way back here to be consumed again. We do also consume gold here. And this is a pretty small building. If you only use the recycled recipe, you actually don't really need any other input either. So maybe there's somewhere we could place this around here. We do have to worry, do we have to worry about exhaust? We don't even have to worry about exhaust. Yeah, no, that's brilliant. We may want a buffer anyway, but let's see. I don't feel like it comes out in that high of volume. And let's say you can bring it out here if you have to, but I'd rather you just process it on site right away. I've done in the past like entire massive recycling centers where you immediately process all the scrap and then send it back, but it's a lot of out and back, and I'm not sure it's worth it for, say, like copper and iron or whatnot. But gold's, right? Gold is small footprint, small volumes, used again downtown, so I think this is a situation where it could make sense. Hey, our statue's done though. I don't know. Face is a little creepy. Don't know if anyone's a college football fan, but I'm getting Purdue Pete vibes. Anyway, gold's neat. So is a 4% reduction in maintenance. There's our ammonia though. Does that hopefully mean it does? That we have been able to make antibiotics, and there we go. So let's transition to medical supplies 2. This is now 1.5. It had been 1, so an extra half unity. We'll take it. Look how backed up our crop processing is because we are full on fuel gas. I suppose we could do some cracking out here. Is that something we would consider doing? We have the CO2 processing. We even have some steam. But it's really not like we need more hydrogen right now, necessarily. Something to keep in mind, I suppose. Spent MOX is at roughly the halfway point here. Of course, having a second nuclear reactor going is going to speed that up. We are still able to keep up on the reprocessing, which is good to see. I think what it'll probably mean is because we have 2, we're going to have to add a second nuclear reprocessing plant when we get to the point of being able to process MOX, but that's at the FBR, and we are not there yet. Seems like our gold reprocessing idea is working all right. That seems good. The other question I have is because we didn't use a buffer over here and it still keeps up. Brilliant. Okay. Very good to see. We still don't really have enough here to justify turning on the third one. So we'll let this keep going for a bit, I guess. Not much should be done until we get to better microchip throughput. So, all right, it's very nearly done here, but we're gonna do one other thing in anticipation. So this little crystallizer is doing a great job, but he's barely keeping up over here. It's partly just intermittent supply, right? I mean, this 6 and this 12 should be enough, right? But I think just to make sure that we have buffer, because this can be hit or miss, especially when we need to be prioritizing to the electronics 2 production, which usually yes. I think we're gonna move this out here so that it turns into a proper module instead of this weird little tucked away little bit of nonsense that we've been doing. So let's go like this. And there we go. I think that should do it. Now we have room to breathe and expand if we need to. Don't really care about being able to access this by truck. Although I suppose in the short term we do technically have a couple left over from clearing that out. So let's do this. Okay. Microchip production. Baseline machine, 4, 100 maintenance 2, 200 kilowatts, 4 teraflops, 6 in, 6 out. Oh, that's more. This is actually, for 50% more people, about the same maintenance, but up a level. A marginal, like, 2.5x, but who cares on the electricity. And triple the teraflops, we get triple the throughput. So that is very good news. So we are definitely, immediately, doing this whole first row. And then I suppose as supplies allow, we'll do the rest of these too. You know what? I think supplies allow. Let's just do it and deal with the fallout later. Surely, this is going to mess up some part of our input. We just tripled our input requirement as well. So we need 18. Hopefully, this will be enough there, right? The acid is probably going to be what breaks first. Although I'm not entirely confident about our water throughput either. So we'll keep an eye on that. And the rest of this should come over by truck. Fortunately, I think this is set. But I'm a little bit curious if we'll be able to keep up on gold. Actually, decently certain we won't. Not fully, but we have, you know, we have the throughput to do it now. So let's just see how it goes. No. Yikes. Back to it. So, acid still comes all the way through. Seems to so far. This is still backing up. Sulfur is probably going to be difficult to keep up with at this point. Let's get our final ship upgrades. They're not super critical, but we would like to get out and visit this last outer part of the rim. And this freaking settlement has the last bit of contracts, and it is boxed in. So we're going to need that because I don't think actually we have access to a uranium contract. That's the one thing that I think we're missing in order to totally future-proof ourselves here. And it would be really nice if we could do that. So the other thing we may have to consider doing if sulfur continues to be this much of an issue is grabbing a slag for sour water contract and just setting up a bunch of these. It might be necessary because we just don't have, we don't have the sulfur. We just don't. We can't fit another one of these in here, can we? Ooh, maybe if I move these pipes. Interesting. Something to keep in mind, I think. And we definitely, by the way, did not have enough throughput on our antibiotics. Didn't even look at the numbers. That's on me. But, so this 16 doesn't quite even hit the 24 we need for 48. And yeah, we're kind of pushing up against that. So I think we need to add another one of these, unfortunately. Which probably, if anything, means we should set this up as a more proper module at some point somewhere else. I think we're going to live with it being imperfect for now. It's just not quite a priority yet. How are we? We could use some server racks, certainly, but that would require excess electronics 3. I think we could probably turn one of these on at least. Actually, look at that. They're starting to build up. Brilliant. I think what we're going to do... Or should we just upgrade these? Maybe that's the move, right? Let's use our new tech. There they are. Ah. Yep, that makes sense. Let's just boost this for now. We'll need to set up a proper row in a bit. We're slowly maturing this into a proper factory setting. We're not quite there yet. All right, so what are you stalling out on? Is it... That's nothing in particular. We are a little low on plastic. Yeah, I can see that. Okay, so the problem out here is not that we don't have enough throughput. Of course we do. It's that we're low on naphtha. Something else we could consider doing, though. We have a pretty decent amount of ethanol over here, and we could, as a backup at least, add some ethanol as an alternate recipe. And there we go. I have no idea if we have enough ethanol to totally backfill that, but I do know that we are using pretty much all of our naphtha just trying to keep up on the rubber. In fact, you know what? I mean, I blueprinted all this crap so long ago. If there was ever a moment in this entire playthrough where it made sense to have all of these machines, it is now or never. So here, finally, I am semi-justified at best, but I'll take it. In fact, we have the Unity. Why are we not boosting this? Plastic actually seems to be back. I think we feel good about that. And this wafer buffer is necessary because we are definitely hit or miss here as we have to backfill some of our electronics too. They were also impacted by plastic. These machines are probably ones that would be good to upgrade. As usual, our basic electronics production is a little lagging because we have to export it to the rest of the base as well. So we'll let that get going, but we are definitely pushing on the teraflops now, so. All right, well, while we are still sort of charging up here a bit and upgrading, I think we're gonna drop down to just one lab. This is not a critical thing, and we're clearly not running at top speed anyway. I think I'd like to preserve the Electronics 3 for server upgrades, you know, that kind of stuff, so that we can actually use these assemblies more properly. So I put a big old diesel export out here, partly because this is all backing up on diesel now, which was the design originally, right? This whole refinery was designed to stop running and save oil when it's full on diesel, because that was the very first thing that we needed and has been still the primary thing we've needed throughout this entire playthrough. But now we also need the byproducts, and I don't really want to crack diesel into anything else. That's a whole thing. And of course we still use diesel and it occasionally runs out. But we need to have, one, a larger storage buffer, and two, just to not be backed up on diesel. If that's what's keeping us from producing the naphtha to produce the rubber, to produce the electronics, so on and so forth. So here's this. It'll make it easier, I think, for trucks to refuel. They won't have to go all the way over here and cross the tracks and everything. And also, it should give us a little bit more runway here for processing other byproducts, like naphtha for plastic. Something else we can do, actually. Since we've upgraded, now we got 240 here. This is 45. These are all running on auto balance or continuous. Yeah, these are running continuous, which we probably don't need given the coal here. Yeah, we need something additional, but I think what we'll do, I mean, it's mostly running on our biomass at this point, right? Like, there's not actually a ton. Like, it's firing every once in a while, but it's mostly the biomass that it's firing on, as long as it's coming through. Yep, and it is. Yeah, I think that's okay. We're gonna have to deal with the biomass anyway, so might as well just have that be a power safety buffer. We'll take it. Well, this station's completely empty, by the way. Go ahead and take all this out. Guess we will have to start thinking about how we're getting copper into our downtown copper production. Our trucks must be already accidentally doing it somehow because it's happening, but this is now a trash train. Yeah, so this train line is no longer in use, nor is this one, nor is this one. Let's take a look over here. This sand we're just keeping full with large trucks, honestly. It's pretty low volume. This copper is decent volume. And maybe we still need to be bringing it in by train, like this train, by the way. What if we edited that train line to stop here first, if it passes right by? Then we can tidy this up and take back this train track. Yeah, I think we're gonna do that. Great. That's the move. And that move will be easier once we merge this back up. Now that is going to make driving here a little bit more complicated, and we do have a lot of trucks using this, so we're gonna have to think about that, but I'm confident we'll make it work. I think we'll just add another, yeah, just add another crossing there. So I kind of hate this curvature now. We've learned so much about trains since we built this this stretch. Actually, do we even need a fuel module here anymore? If they're refueling out here, we do not. Brilliant. Oh boy, that's the end of this iron mine. Kind of want to remove this power. Now that we have more nuclear, I don't think we need it. I am certain we'll come to regret that, is the thing. But it would be most convenient if we could just copy-paste this module right here, because we need to add more silicon poly to reinforce our wafer production. Surely we're fine, right? I don't see how we could possibly end up regretting this. All right, well, there you go. This can only go well, I'm sure. Let's see how we broke it. I'm sure we'll need to upgrade some pipes here and there. But ultimately, I think this should... all the parts are pointing in the right direction, you know? So, let's just keep an eye on it. You still need... oh, yeah, that's what we're missing. Yeah, that comes out to here. And now we're good. Okay, so that's all of those. This is good. All right. The hydrogen accessibility is going to be something to keep an eye on. I suppose we could do... I don't have any oxygen need out here, do we? No. But I suppose we could do local hydrogen production from one of the electrolyzers out of that water and just vent the oxygen here as well. Maybe that's a good idea. All right, so it is functional. We'll need to run it at pace here for a second to make sure that the exhaust and everything still keeps up. But I think we feel good so far. I also have a feeling we won't need all of this capacity running all the time. Once it backs up, I'm sure it'll slow down. But it's already helping out over here, which we're happy about. Yeah, I mean, so far so good. So 16 is enough for a quarter of this. So we still are getting 3/4 of it externally. I think we're gonna have to do this at a higher scale here. We're not really keeping up. What about something like this? It's a bit of a mess to see, but it's basically all the oxygen immediately goes into the center. And then we run all the hydrogen right there. Give it a shot. It's going to be a chunk of power. It's almost 10% of our total current demand, but it also means all the hydrogen we need for this entire process. So I think we take that. Yeah, because wafers are our big problem right now. So hopefully this fixes that. Let's streamline these tracks as well, just sort of thinking about trucks being able to drive through here. I think we can make this a tighter turn. Yeah, that seems like way cleaner. A lot more space through here too. We've come a long way, huh? Learned a lot. Yep, so this seems to be working out. We are finally starting to accumulate a little bit more of our silicon over here, which means that these guys are actually running at a reasonable pace. And that will soon mean that we're backing up in a good way on silicon wafers. And then the rest of this should all go a little bit more smoothly. We got to prove to ourselves that that whole thing will run at top speed for a minute, because it hasn't been there yet. But we've liked what we've seen so far, right? The gold is keeping up. We've got enough copper, and the acid and water seem to be flowing everywhere we need it to, so we'll take it. So far, so good. I think we might... Have we finished off this last server? Not quite yet. But we're getting pretty close to where we want to be right now. This will allow us to crank up to a higher research throughput and then be able to tackle a lot more of all of this in the coming episodes. So now for consumer electronics, we'd love to provide it with some Unity, or to get some Unity, but we'll need aluminum first there. Of course, it takes electronics, so, you know, something to keep in mind. Same thing here, electronics 4, we will have to add lenses and diamonds, some stuff we haven't made yet, but that looks like something we can make easily enough. And then we got to get into titanium, which will be another grind it up and smelt it sort of situation. And then, yeah, I think we can start thinking about space stationing, not to mention the final nuclear level up. So I think we are feeling pretty good here. Pretty good. So I think we'll call it an episode here for now, but I've got to say, I'm feeling good about our progression as we enter into the end game here now. We've got the right technologies, we've got the right things we're building towards. It feels like we have our feet under us pretty solidly. We've got a pretty big city. We've paved a pretty good chunk of this island. We can keep working on that too. And we have made this whole island be what we need it to be. And we've got more room and plenty of flexibility, especially the contracts move. I just feel like there's so much less to juggle now. So we're in a good place. I feel good about it. So I've certainly enjoyed myself. I hope that you have too. And if you did, be sure to stop by for the next one as well. Looking forward to seeing what we get up to in that one. Might be aluminum. Let's see. But until then, enjoy the rest of your day, and bye-bye.